let's take a quick look at how I start building up the textures. So we have a simple model. That's just, new, selecting your model. The important bit, of course, on the low poly ones that I did is to preserve the hard edges wherever I assign them. So you'll see they're here, just for the visual look I want. It's not necessary, but it's also nice for the masks and the rest. So let me go in here for the map baking. So the few changes I do in here is I just select use low poly mesh as high poly mesh because there is no high poly, so it's going to bake from basically by itself. I will increase the size, and in the curvature I will turn it to 0.01. By default it's 0.001. This value just makes it a bit of a better job, gets the job done a bit better when it comes to baking low poly to low poly. A few other changes. I don't think I have too much. In certain cases you might want to change self-occlusion to only mesh name, but that really depends on how complex your model is and how you exported it from your 3D software, as in how many pieces. So it really depends. So the thing is, I can't really go through every scenario that you might run into. But when it comes to changing settings, it's mostly going to be curvature, ambient occlusion. And then one good thing in a position is to change this to full scene, just so it takes in the whole thing when it's baking the position map, because this one will need for the masks. Okay, so with those baked, let's take a look at the textures. All right, so let's take a look. Let's begin with gold. So I want to ignore the material, so I'll just click C on the keyboard to go into base color. Otherwise you can just pick out from here. And let's turn everything off. So I approached all of these in a very similar way, or in exactly the same way. Okay. So the very first layer is going to be the base color. That's all there is to it. Just fill it in, have something to work on. And then I'm going to start building up some masks. So the first one, the way I do it is it's just a fill layer that I create a black mask on. And with some generators, I'll try and get the shapes I want. And these do very nicely for something simple. If the mesh is too complex, you can imagine you'd start getting these shapes not exactly where you want, because it is, at least like this specific, say, light is applied depending on your 3D model, of course. So I'll just begin to kind of place where I want what you would call this further blocking. So light, then I'll add a bit of a highlight, again just light, and then a bit of levels as well, and then of course shadow, which is just the same but inverted. More shadow, which is again light, levels, and then I did some paint because I wanted to get rid of it here, because here it's dark and here I imagined it's going to be reflecting something. Then I did some curvature, which feels a bit, I mean, it's a bit harsh, but again, it's just a block-in, so I don't care too much. So just a generator curvature. Some of the settings you have here is under here, there's a lot, so usually for something like this, I just turn off all the big ones and leave the fine and sharp to get the the finer and sharper ones. But again, it's going to depend what you're aiming for. Important to keep in mind that it is just a block in and you can always paint all over everything. So grunge is just camo, which is actually from here. If I search for camo, it's this one. You think it's kind of weird to use this, but because it's camo, but hey, just change some colors and it adds a nice variation across the whole thing. The mask is not really needed in this case, but you can see it's just a little bit nicer with an overlay, and I turned it down to 20%. And on top of that, this being my block-in, I just paint. It's a good guide. So these are the highlights, these are the edges. So do some painting and it's done. Now the painting is done with a very simple brush, which is quite literally just this basic hard brush. I will have size pressure off. I will have the flow on, and I might reduce the flow a little bit. Even though I still have the pressure, I might still reduce it because I don't want it to be strong. I want to be able to control it quite precisely, but I'll move this around if needed for specific areas. And that's it. Like, I have this brush and I've saved it out just so I don't have to change the settings. So you can see here are my settings. Again, nothing changes, just a few things on, a few things off. Harness. And that's it. And with this, well, now I'm with a mouse, so it won't show too well, but I'm slowly building up these things following my guide, which is this. Cylinder, we'll see it's the same exact thing. Base, masks, a new mask generator comes in as position, and then hand painting, which does the rest. So this was my blocking for this, and then it's just painting. I will, when I'm painting, I would be sampling the colors. I've set to Q to pick material. You can do it in edit, settings, and shortcuts. Yeah, pick stroke material. I don't think it's Q by default, so you just set it to whatever you find comfortable, and then you can be picking materials. Thing is, it will pick material, so it will pick all of these. However, I'm only using color, but again, if I pick, it's gonna use this. So usually you don't want to turn it off each time you pick a stroke. So what I have is these for me don't matter, so I can just ignore it, right? Sometimes if I go in here, it might look really off, but if you do use some of these material masks and you're picking material and you don't like how it looks when you're painting, you can, on your hand paint layer, just go through and turn it all off to 0 on the base color. But I'm not even exporting those, so I don't care. And then this one, just again the same thing, is just took a little bit more painting. If I turn just the hand paint off, you'll see my blocking. Base, dark side. Oh, let's actually do it properly. So dark side is, I'm darkening the bottom a little bit with a light mask generator. Light comes on top, just another light generator. Front, I just wanted a bit less contrast, a bit nicer or more contrast, a bit nicer color in the front. So I added this with another light generator. Highlights is just stronger. On the top at this time, I did just pick and paint. So in the painting, if I click 4, for example, you get this polygon fill thing. And then this is, so polygon, this is whole mesh, and this is UV chunk. So if I just go click, see it's just one polygon. So here I just did the top bit, which I think would work if I do, yeah, just with the, because I know I've separated this in a different UV. I'm clicking X to switch between, by the way. So black, X, click. And it's messed up, but I'll just undo. Let's look at the mask. See, the mask is like this. So I would need to use this and tone it down a little bit. That's how that works. You see, I tried light, but I just couldn't get the, you know, this lighter, this different. So sometimes you just have to come up with something else. These automatic generators won't always do a perfect job. And let's see, curvature, as always. I messed up the curvature a little bit, not to have it super precise with a blur slope. So let's see what we have. So begin with this, but you can see that it is super, super bright. And if I don't want that, sometimes I have to bring it up very bright, just because otherwise it won't catch up certain areas that I wanted to catch on with the curvature. So I'll keep it this bright, but then I'll adjust it. So I'm adding another position mask generator with multiply, and then I'm killing it off. Let's see if I set it to normal. Yeah, you can be able to see. So that's how the position mask looks. And then I'm multiplying. So it's almost killing off the curvature here completely, and then killing it a bit at the top. Let's change it back to multiply. And you can see the result. So it went from this to this, which is pretty nice. And then I'm adding a blur slope, which is just using the default source type, because I have nothing you see in the custom noise. And just a little bit of kind of messing up. Again, not necessary. Would be painting it over, but I just didn't like the super precise, even in the lock-in. Adding what I call the grunge, which is again the camo pattern. Blurred it very, very little. And this is my base to paint from, which is just a single hand paint layer. I'm adding some color variation, so even painting in little details. Doing these kind of little exercises, practices is a very good way to come up with solutions, see how you would solve problems, and just work on your approach. I would highly recommend it. Not do anything super big, but try it out on something smaller. Find a way of working that's comfortable. But then these are very simple. So for something bigger, more detailed, just overall more complicated mesh, one really nice kind of generator thing is, if I do stylized, just not brushes, is the baked lighting stylized. So now actually I'll stay in base color. So for this one, let's say we don't have anything, we just have the base. If I drag this on, you see it already is creating light on the whole object. And if we go into the settings, we can mess around with the whatever we like. So yeah, okay, I like the highlight, the ambient occlusion. If you wanna cavities, smoothness, well, you know, the self-explanatory settings. There you go, the edges. Blur it out a little bit. Sun and sky, you can even change the color. I wouldn't worry too much about the color in this stage. I would just worry about the kind of how it's lit. So I think the ground is the bottom is a bit too dark, so I can raise it up. All the other settings is just to get closer to the result you want to say I like this. It kind of did an okay job on all of these. You can even change the light direction if you want the highlights in a different spot. But you see what I mean. If you start using it on the bigger ones, say I'm not getting the highlight here, I'm only getting the highlight here, which is could just be more correct, but that's not necessarily what I want. I want the highlight there. But if I can't get it through here, then what can you do? I'll just paint it in. When I have this, then I could just let me just bring this up, and I will say overlay it or something similar, and then I can overlay it with a different it's a bit dark, so I think overlay might be a bit of an overkill. Let's see. Soft light, yeah, it's a bit easier on the shadows. And just get a sort of a block in that way. If you had more colors in here as well, you can have them show through. It's just really, really dark now. Oops. Let's see what happened to this guy. Why are you so dark? There we go. Sun intensity. There we go, getting a bit on there. This is kind of how shiny it is. That's fine. But yeah, then you can just build it up with the same way as if you're painting and you have a tonal painting, black and white, and then you're building up layers with different layer modes to do the rest of the texturing and the colors. Could be useful to just do dark and lighten because of just how these layers work to affect only certain areas, but that's just open for experimentation, these kind of things. That's about it for the little introduction. I hope it's going to be a bit easier to wrap your head around with everything that I'm doing, which is the process I've described here. And then after we do a simpler mesh, we'll be able to move on and do a much more complicated one, where I will introduce some new techniques besides just masks and painting in Substance Painter. I will see you soon.